Bitcoin is close to becoming worthless.
Let's go. Now, what's the Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's like rat poison.
Yeah. Oh,
The greatest scam in history.
let's get it.
Bitcoin will go to fucking zero.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Bitcoin Brief, the show where me and Q&A catch up every 2 weeks to talk about Bitcoin, privacy, open source, keeping your Bitcoin secure, and the news and software updates that matter. I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who's been supporting Ungovernable Misfits, and a big thank you to Foundation Devices for supporting the show. If you haven't already checked them out, go to foundation.xyz. They make cypherpunk tools for fuckwits, and anyone can use this, even me. If you have any questions or you want to reach out, feel free and I'll be happy to go through things with you. For anything super technical, I'll pass you on to Q. If you want to buy one of these incredible passports, use the code Ungovernable. It will get you a discount and it will let them know that I'm shilling. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to the Cake Wallet team. Not only are they supporting this show, but they're also bringing out some incredible features. For those of you who actually use Bitcoin and actually care about their privacy and security, Cake Wallet make it incredibly simple for you to live outside of the traditional financial system. You can use Cake Pay within the app to buy gift cards for food, petrol, and whatever else you might need day to day. You can use silent payments, and of course, you can use Monero. You can connect both Bitcoin and Monero nodes, use coin control, and this team are constantly innovating, and I'm really excited to be working with them. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me, but check them out at cakewallet.com. Download the APK or start using this today on Mac, Windows, Linux, iPhone, or of course your Android device. Enjoy the show.
Hola.
That's so weird. I was going to do that as well.
Were you?
I was literally, just before we went live, you were counting down, and I was like, I need to pick a language to say hello in. I was like, well, we're going to talk about Madrid, so I'm going to say hola. We've been recording together for too long.
We have, mate. Was it good in Madrid? Was it everything you'd hoped for?
Honestly, it was excellent. Both the city, the people, and obviously the conference as well. One of the most enjoyable ones I've had for quite a while. We've said for a while, or I've said for a while, that I like the smaller ones. They just feel there's a lot more of a community aspect. It's a lot less corporate. And yeah, Spanish Bitcoiners, all of my assumptions were confirmed in person. They're just fucking based. It was so cool getting to meet quite a handful of NIMs that I've spoken to for some of them, like up to like 4 or 5 years, if not a little bit more, online. Getting to meet them for the first time, mixing with them in the privacy circles online for quite some time. So it was wonderful to get to share a beer and shake their hand. So they know who they are. I won't name drop anybody, but it was fantastic to meet people. We sold out a passport cause on day 2, really well received. Nice. We had a small booth there. Felt like a little bit of a spare part at the booth at times, because obviously Madrid is in Spain and people wanted to talk in Spanish. And
you got the hola.
Uno cerveza, por favor. Yeah, that's about the top and bottom of it. After that, if you ask me to talk about anything, let alone technical Bitcoin terms in Spanish, it goes downhill pretty quickly. So there's a few funny moments where people will come up to me, and I don't think I look particularly Spanish, and they'll just start speaking in Spanish, as you would in Spain. Like, I'm not throwing shade here. Like, I'm in their country, and there's just like this horrible moment where I look back at them, and then I look across to my colleague who can speak Spanish because he is Spanish, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that guy's English." He's like, "I'll help you." So it's quite funny.
That guy's a Hmong. Don't fucking bother. Just
yeah. We just drafted him in. We're just going to throw him on stage for the one English talk that there was. But good fun. Really good fun. Did manage to get a few hours of exploring around the city as well. Yeah, it was excellent. Really good trip.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. What else has been going on in the Bitcoin world then? Something I saw the other day that was tweeted, it looks quite interesting, was this cloaked wireless thing. And I haven't dug into it. I think I know what it's about, but tell me, because it looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, so Cloaked Wireless, their website, if you want to check it, obviously it'll be linked in the show notes, but cloakedwireless.com is basically just like a privacy preserving phone plan operator. They are a company they're under the same umbrella as some of the investors that we've got in Foundation. And we've kind of collaborated so that when you purchase a Passport Prime or a Passport Core and you use the code Cloaked at checkout on the Foundation website, you're going to get a free month plan, which is worth, depending on which plan you use, it can be worth up to $75, so that you can just try out the Cloaked service. Very similar to Silent.link, etc. Yeah, very similar, where you can get a data plan, kind of a no KYC data plan, where you'll have a dedicated number. There's different plans, obviously, that you can kind of go and grab different amounts of speed or amounts of data. And I think all of their plans also come with SMS as well. I don't know whether they do voice plans. It might be worth checking on their website if that is a feature that you need.
Global? You can go anywhere, or?
I believe it is global, yes. Again, have a look through their docs just to confirm that. But yeah, outside of this, obviously you can pay in Bitcoin if you like the free month and then you want to continue with it. You can do so in a privacy preserving way by paying with Bitcoin. And yeah, just a good team behind them. I've got to know the two main guys behind the brand that is Cloaked, and they seem to have a very kind of aligned ethos. So yeah, it was a pleasure to get to work with them and give some freebies out to Foundation customers so that you can have a little taster and see if you like it. And just to correct myself, all of their plans also have minutes or voice plans as well.
Okay.
So it is a very all-encompassing package, and they start at $25 a month and they go right up to $75 a month. And to be clear, this coupon that you get free when you purchase a Foundation product, you can use that on the most expensive plan as well. So make sure you get your money's worth.
So up to 75. Nice. Presumably, obviously, you can pay in Bitcoin, Lightning,
absolutely.
Anything else, Monero or not?
Certainly can. I don't know whether they support Monero. Definitely Bitcoin. I'm pretty sure Lightning. I'm not sure on any other cryptocurrencies. Might be worth checking.
Well, Lightning's good for doing that kind of stuff. If there isn't Monero and there's Lightning, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, definitely. Worth checking it out. Completely free. Obviously, if you purchase an Accompany Foundation product, but otherwise you can get started for $25 a month as well.
Very nice.
A couple of other AOB bits for me. Been speaking to Mr. Nathan Day, and he's given me a shill code for Bitfest in Manchester, which is coming up next month, which is a conference that he's helping put on. It's going to be Nostr Talks, obviously Bitcoin Talks, and I believe there's like a Bitcoin art collective there as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be in Manchester. If you want to get 10% off your ticket, you can use the code Q&A10 on the website. That'll be linked in the show notes. To be perfectly clear, I get nothing back for that. It's just you get $10 off your ticket.
Nice. The art collective, is that like Chief Monkey and that little group?
Do you know what? I've not dove into the art side of things.
Yeah.
Maybe, Nathan, when you hear this, you can comment on whichever Nostr post you see this on, or comment on Fountain and let us know. But I'm sure it will all be listed on the Bitfest website, which will definitely be linked to the show notes as well.
Very nice.
Final bit of AOB for me is more of a public service warning, I guess. We at Foundation became alerted to a fake Foundation website that won't be linked in the show notes, but it's something like foundationenvoy.app or something like that. Obviously, please don't visit it. It's a fake website. They've done a very lackluster job at cloning our website. Anybody who has visited our website at least once will look at this one and be like, yeah, they didn't put much effort into that. But I could see how it might look legit enough for somebody to stumble across it if they're maybe, I guess, how do you put it, less digitally native to kind of pick up on this sort of stuff. Basically, and it just has a download button where it offers you a desktop version of the Envoy app, which, to be clear, does not exist. And some of the engineers have actually done a bit of testing here with in a virtual machine here just to see what happens. And I don't even think it actually downloads even a fake version of Envoy desktop. It just basically downloads an executable on your Windows machine that will then go installing all sorts of horrible stuff, probably keyloggers, looking for seed word keywords in your file systems and private keys.txt and all that sort of usual stuff. So a reminder, just remain vigilant. Our website is foundation.xyz. I'm sure if you looked hard enough, there will be similar clone websites for all of the common wallets. So just be vigilant. If you're unsure, reach out to somebody who's been in the space for a little bit longer and, have them just say, hey, does this download link or this download website, does it look legit? Is this where you would expect to come to get, X piece of software?
Yeah, it's always worth checking. So these executable files, they are just Windows. If someone did this on a Mac or did this on Linux or something like that, what would happen? Would it do anything?
Honestly, don't know. I'd need to check with the engineers in-house at Foundation. They only mentioned Windows executable, so I'm guessing maybe nothing happens. But I suppose if the attackers were motivated enough, then the malware might be smart enough to figure out what you're running and then install the appropriate malware. I'm pretty sure it just affects Windows users, which, if we're being honest, is probably the Windows user base is probably the most likely to fall prey to something like this.
Yeah, I was just about to say,
that might be a sweeping generalization. That might upset some people, but it's a well-founded assumption to make.
Yeah, I think that is fair. Okay, well, yeah, stay vigilant. And also just ask if you're newer in the space. Ask the groups, ask me, ask Q, ask in the comment. It's better just to wait a couple of days or a week before making a move rather than making a move and fuck yourself.
Yeah, 100%. What about you, mate? That was my A or B. Anything going on in your world worth talking about before we hit the news?
Not really. It's all still fiat bullshit trying to drown me. I'm still paddling away, kicking my legs, trying to stop going under. No, actually, other than I got really excited with our Freedom Tech Friday conversation last week, and that's been just going through my head. I think that was one of our best ones. I really enjoyed it. I was kept pinging through my head of I could do this, I could do that. So it's really grabbed my attention, I would say, more than most things have for a while, because it's kind of, you got your Bitcoin set up and you're just okay, well, this is kind of, unless something major, I don't really need to do a lot of changes here. And you kind of get set in your ways to some extent, and I can't be bothered to change unless there's going to be a massive improvement. There's no reason that I'm going to be moving away from Sparrow, and there's no reason that I'm not going to be using my passport, and I'm just kind of as I am. But this stuff, I'm okay, this is now fucking cool. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it was an enjoyable one. That I haven't forgotten. I owe you a shopping list, don't I? It's still on my to-do list, don't worry. Just while I remember, because it's just popped up, we've just had an additional question for the question section later on Nostr. I've got it up on my phone, but it's not in the list. So when we get to the questions bit, just remind me there's an extra one on my phone. Okay, into the news. First article comes from, of course, The Rage. And it's I like the title. The US Treasury won't tell us how much Bitcoin it owns. The guys at The Rage, I believe it was Lola behind this one, filed a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request, asking them to disclose the amount of Bitcoin held by the US Treasury, distinguished by Bitcoin seized and Bitcoin forfeited, which I thought was a clever little addition to add to that, rather than just getting a lump sum of what they've got in their grubby little mitts. The request was made in light of a previous article that I believe we might have talked about a couple of shows ago, that revealed that the US Marshal Service, which is the agency which manages the government's forfeiture program, read stolen. That then, when they reported it, said they held less than 30,000 BTC, which is miles away from the 200,000 that was previously advertised to be owned by Mr. Trump. So they've now had a response, basically. And if I was to summarize, it was basically on your bike. But according to the response, FOIA regulations require that the request describe documents in sufficient detail to enable us to locate the records without placing an unreasonable burden upon the IRS. Because the FOIA is not intended to reduce agency personnel to investigators on behalf of the requesters or to allow requesters to conduct phishing expeditions through agency files. Jesus, that reads like it was written by a government official, doesn't it? Oh my God. But yeah, basically they've been told you're not having it because it's too much work for us to do it. Well, that was the guise that they've put this under. The initial summary was, your FOIA request is overly broad in nature, so we ain't doing it.
Okay.
This article signs off, says a new FOIA request has now been filed with the Treasury for records of Bitcoin that have been forfeited to the US government. So they're getting a bit more specific now to see if they can get something out of them, which I thought was quite fun.
Very good. Very good. Poking the bear.
Yeah, indeed. Next on the list, I love this one. Again, from the Rage, article will be linked in the show notes. Roman Storm has filed a motion for acquittal on all counts. Now, anybody who pays attention to the show will be like, well, yeah, we kind of knew this was going to happen because, in fairness, on his verdict date a couple of months ago, he said, I think, and quote, "This is bullshit and we're going to fight it." And he stayed true to his word. Oh, it was back in August, it was. And he filed motion for acquittal last week, maybe, or the week before, on all counts. The defense is arguing that the statutes applied cannot withstand the scrutiny of the First Amendment, as the government would effectively criminalise the publication of decentralised software. Storm was discouraged from presenting a First Amendment defence at trial, as Judge Thalia had found that, quote, "the functional capability of code is not speech within the meaning of the First Amendment." And that was in a pre-trial hearing. So, yeah, very happy to hear that he's ponying up here and fighting the man, because, again, as we've said many, many times, it has potentially big ramifications for the rest of the crypto industry, not only us in Bitcoin, as much as we like to pigeonhole ourselves away from that dirty word crypto, not on this show, obviously, but huge ramifications. So love to see that he's fighting this. Another good quote here. Storm's conviction of conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money transmitter was controversial from the beginning, as numerous advocacy groups, as well as Storm's defense, argued that Tornado Cash did not qualify as a money transmitter, as its developers never took custody of funds and therefore could never have engaged in the transfer of funds. Again, if you've listened to any of the previous briefs, you would have heard all of this before. So I don't know when this will, like, the follow-up hearing is going to take place. I am quickly scanning the article, but it's not mentioned here yet. This is a very long article, by the way. So, if you're interested in the follow-up to this, would recommend checking this one out. And as always, when we have future developments on this one, we will make sure that we keep you guys updated. Also, quick note to fabulous producer, can we include the donation link to the Tornado Cash or to Roman's fund? Let's make sure that we signpost people to getting some funds into his coffers or his lawyer's coffers to give him every possible chance at fighting this successfully. Love you, Jordan.
Yeah, definitely. Respect to him. And yeah, love you, mate. Did you like the little video of our Canadian overlord last week?
I did. Yeah, if you don't know what we're talking about, go back to last week's Freedom Set Friday on Twitter or on YouTube and check out the video right at the end. Max has done some incredible work, if I do say so myself.
His little Canadian flag.
Yeah, it was good work, that. It was good work. I am liking the capabilities that AI video production is allowing us. Love it.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I think Mr. Cram put it best. He said something like, I can't remember how he said it.
I'll paraphrase it. It must be good if Max can produce something like this. Or something to that effect.
Something like that, yeah. It was very good. Thank you, Mr. Cran. I appreciate that comment.
Okay, next item coming out of the UK. An individual named Yadi Zhang, not of British origin, as you would guess with a surname like that, has pled guilty in the UK to illegally acquiring $6.7 billion of Bitcoin. UK police now have possession of 61,000 Bitcoin that she stole in the largest cryptocurrency seizure in history. Zhang ran a massive scam in China between 2014 and 2017, defrauding 128,000 victims and then subsequently stashing the proceeds in Bitcoin. Now, obviously,
wow,
defrauding 128,000 people, I'm never going to get behind that, but at least they had the wherewithal to put it into something that's not going to disappear over the course of 10 or 15 years through inflation.
It won't disappear over 10 or 15 years. It disappears in one day when it's seized.
Yes, when you get a very big, heavy knock on the door.
Yeah.
She later fled to the UK with false documents and tried to launder funds through property. Her lawyer says the victims can now be repaid, noting Bitcoin's rise means there are more than sufficient funds available. But reports suggest the UK government may try to keep the Bitcoin,
of course it will,
instantly creating the world's third largest national strategic Bitcoin reserve. I mean, they're not that clever. They're going to fucking sell it, aren't they?
They're not that clever. They are so retarded it hurts. They'll do something like swap it for Doge when like after a pump of Doge because of something that like Elon has tweeted, and they'll pile in there, and then that will drop 80%, and then they'll sell that for something else. They'll lose all of it.
And then whatever's left, they'll send it to a Zelensky's bank account.
Yes. Oh, fucking it. How crazy is that, though, that one lady has inadvertently given the opportunity for a country to have the third largest Bitcoin reserve in the world?
Crazy, innit?
That is mad.
I'm sure China will have something to say about that if they've got people in their country that have been defrauded that are owed money. Like, can you see Keir Starmer standing up to President Xi being like, yeah, no, we want to keep it? Like, that's never going to happen, is it?
No, I can't think so. But I also can't think that they'd really care about like just normal, no offense, but the type of people who get hit by these scammy, fraudulent crypto bullshit stuff are generally not that smart, and they're generally not that wealthy as a general rule. So they're probably just people that like producing ping or whatever isn't going to give a fuck about. It's not even going to cross his radar.
True. When I was quickly scanning a couple of articles relating to this story, what I couldn't find was what the actual scam in China was that she managed to scam 128,000 people.
Well, you had a look, did you?
Yeah, it came across my radar because obviously the UK police had took custody of all of the Bitcoin that she converted into, but I don't know what the scam in the first place was that she then put the proceeds into Bitcoin.
What was her name?
It was Yadi Zhang, Yadi Zhang, Zhang.
Here's a breakdown of what you need to know about Yadi Zhang, also known as Zimin Qian, and her scam. The scam was between 2014 and 2017. In China, she ran an investment wealth scheme fraud that targeted more than 128,000 victims. The scheme promised high returns, often via investment agreements, and used intermediaries, brokers, and promotional events.
So it was a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, but part of the pitch was involved in things like Bitcoin mining, elderly care, environmental protection, etc. The fraud proceeds, blah, blah. So basically, yeah, a pyramid scheme.
Wow, must be a pretty big one.
Fair play. I mean, sometimes you look at these things, and obviously it's wrong, it's bad, but you look at the front on these people, and you're like, you're just a different animal. Like, what was that blonde lady that did the $1 billion, like, she could take blood, but without taking blood, and it became like a massive multi-billion-dollar company, and she had literally no technology. It was all just a massive bluff. What was her name? They did a documentary on it.
Oh, I don't know. Not heard of that one.
She like looked a bit like Gollum. She had like massive eyes. She looked a bit fucking weird. But yeah, they're just like the front on these people. They like create companies and like this whole veneer of like people are like, oh my God, this is multi-billion-dollar huge thing. Oh my God. And then actually it's just some cunt who's just lying. Just do nothing. It's like, you have to say like, fair play. You've got some front. It's wrong, but wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think she's been sentenced yet, but I'd imagine with a haul that big, it's probably going to be a lengthy one.
Yeah, okay.
All right, next on the list, something that's slightly more positive. I'm keen to get your take on this one because I know most of the Ungovernables are not the biggest fan of Mr. Jack Dorsey, but
not particularly.
I personally think this is bullish. Square Bitcoin, in their latest release, have announced two very cool things. Number one, if you are a merchant and you use a Square terminal, of which I believe there's like 4 million different merchants in the US alone that use the Square terminals, you can convert a percentage of every single sale automatically into Bitcoin so that you can build up your own company treasury if you wanted to. You can go anywhere from 1% up to, I presume, up to 100% if you wanted to. And that's all automatically so that you can, as a company, auto buy Bitcoin just by doing your day-to-day sales, essentially, just by running your business. But also the second item here, which is due to launch in November the 10th, a little under a month from today, you can accept Bitcoin payments automatically so that your customers can pay in Bitcoin, and you can choose to receive those in BTC or have them auto-converted into USD so that, again, you can attract Bitcoiners to your store, but never have to touch a single sat of Bitcoin in your entire life ever if you're only interested in dollars. And in doing so, if you keep them in BTC, there are 0 processing fees all the way through to the end of 2026 as a bit of a a hook into get people into this kind of ecosystem and you start interacting with Bitcoin. I believe this is US only for now, though I have seen a couple of tweets from Miles from the Square team that says they're already working on a global rollout, which presumably can't be that difficult because Square terminals are the same all over the world. I'm guessing that the hurdle is more of a regulatory one for them. So two very cool things. I think the second one is way cooler because I'm sure, especially our American listeners, will know at least a handful of local merchants to them that use a Square terminal. They're very common, particularly in more smaller outfits where I believe, again, this is going to be turned on by default so that you can just go in, pay with Bitcoin. The merchant basically needs to know very little, if anything, other than the fact that they have this feature available to them and they get what they want at the end. They can either keep the Bitcoin or they can automatically switch to USD with zero fees. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't trust Dorsey, but I think this is a positive. I'm trying to think where the negatives are. There are some negatives, but as a general rule, it's a massive positive, especially if people can go in and just pay without the merchant having to understand anything about Bitcoin. If it's just like, here's your bill, and you can just scan a QR code or whatever it is you've got to do. Excuse the rain here, by the way, I'm in the middle of a storm. If you can just do that, then that's incredible. It will also then introduce people to Bitcoin because presumably some of these merchants will be like, oh, okay, I'm not paying the fees that I would with a credit card, which is actually pretty significant.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's a big one. And then on top of that, they'll probably over time be like, oh shit, I switched it to US dollars. But look, if I'd have kept it, this would have been a much better situation than I am now, as a general rule over time. So that's generally quite a good hook. I guess my only concerns or potential negatives are, how does it work on payments in terms of, presumably it's just Lightning rather than on chain, but that would be good to know because obviously that gives some layer of privacy. And can it be done from any wallet, or do you have to do it through Strike or a fully complianced company? Like, can you just pull out your Phoenix wallet or Zeus wallet or whatever and just pay for your shopping like that?
Yeah, my understanding to the last question is yes, you'll be presented with either an invoice, a Lightning invoice, or an on-chain address. You can pay from any wallet. Like, I'm pretty confident that's the way that they're going to head with that. And remind me what the first point that you made was?
Fuck knows. Someone can tell us in the comment. Obviously not that important. I think that's the main one. Like, can anyone pay? Because you want it to be usable by everyone and not be looped into like a KYC headache. So if you can do that, that's great. And if it can just be turned on and everyone can use it, the guy behind the counter doesn't need to know what they're doing, you can just pay, then I don't know. I think it's great. I can't think of really a big negative there. I think that's a big win if it happens.
And looking at this from a merchant perspective as well, like sometimes merchants can get scared by like tax burdens and things like that. But because this is literally a merchant tool, like they've already said, like all of the tax things is all handled for you. So you'll, depending on which way you do it, whether you're saving, whether you're spending, paying your bills in Bitcoin, or you're doing 50-50 or anything like that, it's all going to be handled from a tax perspective for you so that you just get one file at the end of the year and
Massive.
you give that to your accountant. And so to remove that headache is huge because I'm a strong believer that that is one of the main roadblocks for merchants not adopting Bitcoin. Is they're like, do you know what? The user base is so small at the moment that it's not worth my time to go through that headache to calculate the taxes on the 10 transactions I might do it in a year.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's huge. It's just making it mainstream and easy, but doing it in a way that people who have been in Bitcoin for a while and want to spend their Bitcoin can do that without jumping through so many hoops all the time. And that's a brilliant thing. I like it. I think it's really cool.
So two final things for me on this one is, number one, because the Square terminals tend to be used by medium to small businesses, like larger merchants will have their own custom stuff.
Like coffee shops and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But like mom and pop shops and things like that, they tend to use this type of solution. So not only will it push people to spend their Bitcoin, but it'll push them to spend Bitcoin in smaller businesses, which we all know are really feeling the pinch at the moment compared to the tech conglomerates. And then the final point I want to say is a bit more of a, let's not get too excited too quickly in terms of how well used this might be, particularly in the short term, because it's a US launch at first, and any time that you spend your Bitcoin or exchange it for goods or services is a taxable event in the US for the person that's spending the Bitcoin. Now, I have my own thoughts on that, but we are public voices, and I'm not going to tell people to evade the law. So I'd imagine that most people are going to be less forthcoming when doing this, or if they are going to do it, then they're going to maybe keep it quiet.
Yeah. Well, obviously, we've got our opinions on whether the taxes are legitimate or not legitimate and all that kind of stuff. But the truth is, if you fuck with these things too much, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. And so just everyone should be careful, is all I'll say. The fact that it is on the Lightning Network and you're spending from a Lightning wallet as a payment to the little, you see these things in these little pop-up coffee vans that are like,
Yep.
A repurposed old truck or whatever. And it's like that type of stuff where like you're spending $5 or $10 and just it's those types of things. I'll just say, I think that's a very good way of like redistributing, getting Bitcoin into the hands potentially of these smaller business owners and entrepreneurs and people who, like you say, are feeling the pinch more. And if you want to see it go anywhere, really, it's there, like to the normal people, to the people who it might just click with, and they might just say, oh, this thing's actually pretty cool. This is pretty interesting. Let me take a look. And it might just help them and their families. So I think this is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the case studies that could come out next year from Square to be like, oh, business X converted 2% of their daily sales into Bitcoin, and it's done this for their bottom line. And they are, as a small mom and pop shop, they are now 25% above where they would have been had they just took US dollars and stuff like that. I think that's going to be a very powerful marketing tool. Obviously, very dependent on the Bitcoin price, as is most things in this industry.
See, oh yeah, this young entrepreneur, they started this coffee van, they've poured their life savings into it. They dropped out of their corporate job. They thought, no, I'm not going to do this. It's this and the van life and Bitcoin, and it's gone.
Yeah, well, let's hope it doesn't come to that. Eh?
Yeah. Good. That's good news.
Yeah, remain measured on it, but seems like a positive step in the right direction for a very big portion of the Bitcoin ecosystem because it's very American-centric, as we all know.
Yes.
All right, next on the list, I thought this was cool, worth a quick mention. The guys behind Breeze come up with a new initiative called Time to Build. The URL is build.dev. It's a worldwide developer challenge to bring Bitcoin to the world's leading open source applications and services using the Breeze SDK. So obviously not for everybody. Basically, they've got a number of bounties out for people to build cool shit that uses the Breeze SDK as kind of like the foundational layer here. It's very broad in terms of what you can build. But yeah, there's a good quote here. Moving value online shouldn't be limited to financial applications. Think bigger. What if every app, every service, every platform could move value as easily as it moves information? That's the future you're building. Messaging and social apps that send sats like a DM, real-time tipping to content creators, musicians and podcasters, or power crypto wallets with Lightning. The possibilities are endless. So I'm excited to see what comes out of this. I think the prize is $25,000, but it's split into three. Gold is 7,000, mid-ranked project. Second place is 3,500, and then third place is $1,000. I'm guessing there's multiple in each because that doesn't add up to 25,000. Maybe if you're a budding vibe coder, then it could be a good way to earn some Bitcoin here.
Very nice.
And the last news article we have is, sadly, a UK Bitcoiner that goes by Bitcoin Cookie, who I've never heard of before.
No.
They got hacked a couple of weeks ago and lost all of their Bitcoin savings. Took a while for the details to come out here, but it won't be a surprise for you to learn that the user had a hardware wallet and the hardware wallet was not hacked. The user clicked a malicious link, which led to their cloud stored seed being leaked to the wrong people. Bye-bye, money gone. Which is obviously, a horrible thing to go into. I believe it was to the tune of a little over half a Bitcoin, which, is like, $60,000 at today's prices, something like that. Yeah, so he was using a ledger. There's absolutely zero indication here to say that the ledger was at fault. It seems as though I found one tweet maybe where he said that he used the cloud service, where I presume his seed was stored. Whatever link he's clicked has given the hacker access to some of his services, particularly wherever he had his seed stored in the cloud, which is obviously not a great idea. at all.
It's not the best, is it?
And completely defeats the point of having a hardware wallet in the first place. So obviously didn't bring this up to kind of dunk on the guy. It's heartbreaking. I bring it up as another stark reminder as to if you have a hardware wallet, then maybe don't keep your fucking seed on a cloud service. Keep it offline, even if it is in a ledger.
Yeah, keep it offline, and whatever you get sent, don't enter your seed words ever, 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 ever.
There is literally never a scenario where you should enter your seed words into a website. Never, ever, not once. Even if your hardware wallet blows up in your hands and you really need support, they still will never, ever, 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 ever ask you to enter your seed words anywhere other than a hardware wallet.
Yeah. They're the ones that seem to be the low-hanging fruit, and the things that people go for is just like, click this link and they'll try and, like he's had it on a cloud, which is not ideal, and then enter your seed words. And you just see it. It's so shit. We give out the advice all the time, and lots of other places give out the advice all the time, but it doesn't mean that those people are listening.
Yeah.
They're either not listening to any podcasts or reading any articles, or they're listening but to some fucking shilling idiot who doesn't care about them or their privacy or security. And it's sad because you're just like, oh mate, fucking, if it happens to you, you'd be really fucking upset. So yeah, stay vigilant.
Again, this is absolutely not to dunk on the guy. I'm highlighting this to show that complacency literally will get you wrecked. This guy, I'm just looking at his profile now, it says he's a developer at the Bitcoin trading card game. So like, this guy's clearly has at least some level of technical competency. And he's clearly just got complacent because it's like, oh, my seed's in the cloud, my cloud's never going to get hacked. Like, you don't have to be a fucking 40 IQ idiot to get wrecked by this. Clever people still do, and they do because they get complacent and they get comfortable. He's been on Twitter since 2018, so it sounds like he's done at least a couple of cycles.
Been around.
And unfortunately should have known better. But again, I'm not dunking on the guy.
It's
just that complacency it will get you wrecked.
I actually think smarter people in some ways are more likely to get wrecked. The people who are quite tech savvy and, I use this for this and they're like, everything's easy and, that's encrypted over here. And like, I think sometimes they trip themselves up more because like a fucking idiot like me is just like, don't want to deal with any complexity, hardware wallet, steal. That's it. Use one app because I'm scared because I know I'm dumb. I'm like, I'm not smart enough for this clever shit and this and all this jump through that hoop and do it over here and whatever. I'm just like simple. And I think fucking Luke Dash Jr., he got like 300 Bitcoin hacks the other day.
Prime example.
Obviously smart, a bit weird. But he's, he's not a low IQ fucking knuckle dragger. He's just a bit weird. You know a bit about computers and software and stuff. Like you know some stuff, and you get 300 Bitcoin taken from you in theory. So this is the perfect example of like so smart that you trip yourself up with your own brains.
Yeah, absolutely. Just again, stay vigilant.
Yeah,
nothing more to say about it.
No.
Right, mate. Boosts.
Yeah. Late stage huddle. With 6,006 sats. Brits eat spam? ? Damn, y'all are more like rednecks than I thought. I've always referred to spam as stuff posing as meat.
I like that.
That's very good. Stuff posing as meat. But it's good if cooked correctly in some fried rice or spam masubi. I don't know what that is. Which is like sushi, but with spam. Oh, God, that sounds awful.
It does.
That sounds absolutely hideous. I guess Hawaii is halfway between Southeast Asia and the rednecks in the southern United States, so it's a nice mix. Thanks for your explanation of the knots versus core debate. I appreciate y'all as always. Well, we appreciate you. Thank you for your support and also letting us know what masubi is.
Yes, I've never heard of Masubi either. Before I read the next boost, was it Late Stage Huddle that said that he was held at gunpoint in Texas or something like that? Or was it one of the other regulars?
Do you know, my memory's terrible. I can't remember. It might have been Late Stage Huddle.
It was one of them. Anyway, he got back to me on Noster, and I'll send you the link to it because it is a wild story. He gave me the story in the comments because
really?
I think we read the boost when we were live, and I said I need to hear that story. He responded to that show somewhere in. I'll send you the link. It's so funny. I'm pretty sure it was Late Stage Shuttle, but if it wasn't you, Late Stage Shuttle, then I apologise to whoever it was.
I'll look forward to that one.
Chad
Farrows. Sorry, mate. I'm stepping on your toes, and I really apologise.
Chad Farrow streamed a whopping 2,700 sats. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chad Farrow. Chet with 2,121 sats. English fags. Max is an undercover Nazi. You got me, mate. You got me.
That's a pretty big insult these days.
It's fine. I've got him on the show. He's coming on next week, so I'm going to abuse that fucking retard when he comes on. That bearded oaf.
He's got a good smile.
He's got a great smile.
One of the best Bitcoiner smiles I've ever seen. He's just always looks really happy.
Yeah, he is. He's a happy guy. Shadowy Super Badger. Fucking hell. It's me, then it's you, then it's me, then it's you. Right.
That's how it goes.
I don't know what I'm doing. Go on.
Shadowy Super Badger streamed 1,440 sats. Thank you, Super Badger.
Thank you, mate. Open Mic streamed 1,100 sats. Thank you, Open Mic.
Tam Tam Bam with 1,021 sats. Great episode. I really appreciate your perspectives. It's so important to keep people's feet on the ground in the, quote, Church of Bitcoin, as the pie-in-the-sky thinking built around a desire for a future utopia makes a lot of people in this space dislocate from reality of the big bad world that exists. They're divorced from the fact that some dangerous motherfuckers are coming for them and their sovereignty, which makes them a danger to themselves and each other. Couldn't agree more.
Great boost. Thank you very much, Tam Tam Bam Bam. Nathan Day streamed 900 sats. Thank you, Nathan Day. I've not spent enough time with Nathan Day. I've only caught up with him a couple of times. One time I was absolutely fucking blasted out of my face in Amsterdam, so I couldn't really remember it very well. And once with Ben Gunn, but he's a good guy. He does a lot of good stuff in the space, and he supports us. So thank you, Nathan Day.
He's got his finger in lots of pies. He did message me the other day. Actually, said he's been catching up with a load of our shows. So thank you for streaming as well while you're doing so, sir.
Thanks, mate.
User 352217777 streamed 810 sats.
Thank you. Rev Hoddle. I wonder how long the feedback loop will be to determine the consequences of more node runners taking the configuration of their nodes into greater consideration. Seems like it could take a while before hindsight becomes 2020.
Thoughts?
I don't know.
I see where Rev Hoddle's going with this. Maybe hindsight will become 2020 in a number of years. I don't know. I just think this whole thing's just a bit of a nothing burger, and this whole not blip. Maybe they stick around because the divider's got too big and it sits at like 20-30% of claimed amount of nodes. Fine, cool, go for it. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. The main thing that just gets so tiresome is just the usual crowd just running around shrieking that Bitcoin's going to die and that there's going to be CSAM all over the blockchain and that we're all going to get locked up because we're running out. It's like, fuck off.
Yeah, just shut up.
Bitcoin will keep being Bitcoin, irrespective of which node implementation you run. We're going to be fine.
That's the attack, in my personal opinion. The attack is divide and conquer, create a load of confusion, get people fighting, waste everyone's time with pointless arguments. That's the spam. It's the spam of our minds. It's like a constant spamming of useless shit where we could be thinking about more important things. That's my opinion on the whole thing. And I don't care what anyone runs. I couldn't care less.
Agreed. And yes, it was Late Stage Huddle that had the wild story, by the way. I've just found it in my Noster mentions. So, thanks for sharing that one. Very funny. For those that are interested, you can go and go through my mentions on Noster. It'll be on there somewhere. We All Eat. Chat again. Stream 600 sats. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Rog at SC Bitcoin sent 500 sats, said, so good to get a reasonable perspective on the core knots debate. Well, thank you. I think we did a good measured show there, don't you?
I agree. Yeah, and to be honest, reason is the thing that's been missing from all of the discussions. I sympathise with both sides. You know, we made very clear where our allegiances lie in the last show, but I can definitely see some of the points of the other side and just maybe not how they've gone about stating their points, because as soon as you start shouting "Save the children," like, you've just lost the argument in my book.
You have, yeah. Thank you, Rog.
VMVD boosted 160 sats. No comment. Thank you, sir.
Pies.
Hey, chingity ching.
To the 121 sats. Salute, mushroom fisting.
Pow Please boosted 100 sats and just said that was helpful. Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for boosting.
You are welcome. CPOBV Average Gary says all UTXOs are economically arbitrary until they are in a TX I'm creating.
Yes.
Yeah?
In other words, look after yourself and Bitcoin doesn't care.
Yes. Good point.
Final one, not expatriotic, with... why have you done this? 0.010101010101 XMR. Props to Average Gary for running a Bitcoin node.
Ah, okay.
Do you know what? I have no idea on what it would take to run a Bitcoin node. It's not something I've ever looked into.
Yeah.
Maybe Average Gary, if you're listening to this, which hopefully you are because you were the previous booster, drop us some links. Let us know about your experience. Was it easy? Was it hard? Could Max achieve it?
That's like the bench testing, isn't it? It's like, is it retard proof? Can Max do it? Like, no, that's a bit. It's like, okay, it's not quite there yet. Yeah, I'd be interested to know. Bitcoin, that's what's his name, isn't it?
Not Eric Kaysen.
No, definitely not Eric Kaysen. Eric Voskuil.
There we go. I got half of it right.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know a bit more about that, because he seems to be one of the more reasonable, measured types on those things. Like, he's one of the people that when I've tuned in and listened to him on a show or read what he has to say here and there, I'm like, yeah, you make a lot of sense. So
yeah, you live in the real world.
Yeah, he does. He doesn't strike me as like a basement dwelling cunt. He seems to be someone you could like really sit with for a day and have a really good conversation with, and lives properly, both feet planted. So I think if it is easy enough for me to try and run one, I'd be interested. I'd give it a go.
Very good. All right, Max, I'll hand the direction of the show over to you now. Questions or updates and releases?
Okay. I'm going to throw a curveball. Actually, I'm going to first say thank you very much to BTCWrestle, because he sent a load of sats out of one of his wallets that he was testing over to me to support the show. So thank you very much.
Yeah, you did DM me about this. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, mate. Not only are you supporting the show with sats, but also he has sent in our updates. So cue the music. Robosats. 6 online Robosats coordinators, 38 public buy orders, 88,210 sats in book liquidity, 1,171 active robots. There's a 1.3% non-KYC premium, and the 24-hour contracted volume is 0.2446 BTC.
Sorry, just to jump in, 6 coordinators is a lot more than the last time I checked. That's pretty cool.
Is it? I can't remember what it was last time.
Pretty sure the last time I went on there was like 2.
There was 6 on last show as well.
Oh, okay, I wasn't paying attention there, clearly. What did you say the book liquidity was?
The 24-hour contracted volume is 0.2446 BTC.
Wow. So that's like $20,000?
More. It's like 30, 35.
Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty decent.
Please continue.
Ashigaru. Whirlpool is up 0.37 BTC since last brief. So what's that, $50,000-ish? Unspent capacity is 45.85 BTC. Unspent value is $5.29 million. Pools are, they're a bit more evenly split now. 284 counts of 2.5 million sats and 155 counts of 25 million sats. So that is all looking good. Bisq, 24-hour volume is 0.1766 BTC. 7-day volume is 2.348 BTC. And then also because we're talking about Bisq, we should probably talk about their mobile wallet, shouldn't we?
We should indeed, yeah. Let's hit the updates and releases then. That's a nice segue. I like it. Although you have caught me out of order now. But let's talk about Bisq.
This is what BTC Wrestle's for. He comes in, he smashes everything up. You never know when it's coming, and it's going to throw you off, and it just takes you out of your comfort zone.
Just like pulls the pin out the hand grenade, lobs it through the door, and then locks it. Just joking. We appreciate your input, BTC Wrestle. Thank you for helping out. Very cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Bisq. This came out of nowhere for me. I didn't even know they were working on this.
I did.
They now have an Android mobile application. More specifically, this is for Bisq Easy. So it's not going to be the full-featured, in-depth trading platform that you can get on the desktop. I would imagine it will be enough for most people to get access to the global liquidity and get started with Bisq. Looks like a good-looking app, actually. You've got the typical dark mode with all of the green secondary colours, very on-brand for them. You can get it on the Google Play Store or obviously download as an APK from their GitHub. Some highlights here. It actually runs a Bisq peer-to-peer node over the Tor network directly on your phone. Tor is fully integrated, so you don't need to dick around with Orbot. It has background sync, but if you do have a version of Android that has kind of more aggressive battery management, it will automatically reconnect when you reopen the app. So just keep that in mind. I think Samsung's pretty bad for that if you are a Samsung user. They do address the when iOS question. The short answer is probably never, for the obvious reason that I'm guessing this is probably never going to get through the App Store.
Yeah.
The reason that they cite is that Bisq is built in Java, which integrates quite easily with Android, but not so much with iOS, which I believe is Swift. It would basically be like a full rewrite, which for a decentralized platform, I guess, or project is no mean feat when you're not VC funded. But they did say, stay tuned, we're working on Bisq Connect, which is a companion app that acts as a remote control for your desktop or VPS-hosted Bisq node, which also runs over Tor, and that will be available cross-platform. I haven't had a chance to download this yet, but looking at the screenshots, seems like they've done a great job in terms of keeping things as clear, as simple as possible. You do have access to the global liquidity. You can choose, as you would expect with all the usual offers on Bisq, you could choose your currency method, your amount, and your payment methods as well, depending on which side of the trade you want to be on, be it buy or sell. And looking forward to having a play around with this one. It looks pretty cool.
It does look cool. I'll just say there was a comment that did make me laugh. I saw this on Twitter, and then I saw underneath Tannehill. Nice. Now I can get my bank account closed whilst on the go without having to sit at my desktop. It did make me chuckle. It caught me off guard, that one.
I know it's said in jest, but again, just as a reminder, if you are going to do peer-to-peer trading and you're going to use some fiat banking rails, then make it a separate one so that your life doesn't fall over if your main bank gets closed because you send some money to a peer that might be a disagreeable one in terms of how your bank sees them.
Yeah, use a throwaway bank account, have multiple. We keep saying it, but it is as much as I laugh at that, it is a Bisq is a great thing. You just have to, as you say, separate it out and reduce your risk a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We released Envoy 2.1.0 beta last week, now available for testing. Again, if you have your life savings on Envoy or your watch only of your life savings, connected to Passport and you are not interested in testing them, wait for the main release. But main highlights here, this is more of a stability release where we did a lot of work on the magic backups, which is the automatic encrypted cloud backup for your mobile wallet only. So we've done some stability on the restoration flow, incorporated and made sure it was a bit more stable in terms of additional metadata like your node selection and your app settings. Other minor things like upgraded the Flutter version, improved some fee selection when cancelling transactions with RBF, added some additional Tor endpoints with the aim of improving or further improving Tor stability, which continues to pain us, particularly on iOS. And then loads of minor bug fixes as well. So if you are interested in helping us test, get involved. There's a reminder, the link in the show notes will outline the bug bounty reward program, so you can earn some sats by reporting eligible bugs as part of all of our beta releases. So check the link in the show notes and get involved.
Hold on, I should be a fucking millionaire then. Why did I not know about this before?
You'd be retired by now. We have spoken about it on the show. It was a while back when we actually released it, but it is true of all of our beta releases. Yeah, we offer a bug bounty solution. I know Expatriotic's got involved with it a number of times. He's earned some sats off us.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, Max, Bitcoin Core version 30 has now been released.
Shill alert. Shill alert.
You core shill.
Max, is it dead?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's time to just pack up and leave.
Obviously, we are joking and talking about satire. On Friday evening, the Bugle Boys held a vigil for Bitcoin's death on Twitter. It opened, I can't remember which one of them it was. I think it was Rob Palmer who opened with a full 2 or 3 minute monologue on the death of Bitcoin. It's hilarious. And then basically everybody was just popping into the Twitter spaces and reading their own eulogies of Bitcoin and what it did for their life while it was alive.
So
very,
good.
very funny listen. Much needed to kind of lighten the mood after all of the shrieking that's been going on. And to be clear, no, Bitcoin is not dead. Tell you what's weird as well. I've seen lots of DMs and to my own account and to the foundation account with people. There's been two kind of traits here. It's what should I do? And I get some people want advice of people that they kind of see as more of an authority on the subject. So I kind of get that, but it's not up to me what node you run. Just, do your own research and listen to the last show, look at the people and how they're talking about the different implementations, and just make your decision based on that. Yeah. But then the other one, there's basically people baiting Bitcoin companies to be at Swan Bitcoin or at Foundation or at Blockstream. What node implementation are you going to run? And then if there's any indication that they say anything other than Bitcoin not, or that they are going to update to version 30, then they then get publicly shamed to be never use this company. They are shitcoiners and they're...
I've not even seen that.
It's embarrassing. It's completely embarrassing.
If you just either didn't respond or you said, I'm not going to update for a while, I'm just on call, whatever, a few versions back, then that's a bad thing. That's that you're attacked for that.
Essentially, yeah.
That's mental.
Yeah. Well, these people are deranged, mate. They're just not on planet Earth.
I thought it was very accepted to be you don't really need to rush out an update. You can wait a while. You could wait 6 months, you could wait a year, you could wait 2 years. Most of the time, it's not going to be a problem. And that would be a much more conservative and reasonable approach, especially as a company, unless you need to do something that the new software allows or whatever, or it's going to make a big difference to something you're doing. That would be a reasonable approach.
Well, like I say, not everybody is all there. There's a few people that outrageous engagement at the end of the day, and people thrive off it.
That's true.
Next on the list, cool little tool that I came across on Nostr called the Bullish Decoder. Bit of a weird name considering what it does, but pretty cool nonetheless. It's a progressive web app to decode all the things. Very occasionally, if you're a slightly more advanced user, you might want to decode a Lightning address or a Lightning invoice or a Bolt 12 offer, or it also does cashew tokens as well. Basically, you can just paste in any of the above and it will give you all of the information that is gleanable from that piece of information. So it can be useful, especially if you're doing some troubleshooting on your own node, maybe your own Lightning node, or you want to see what's actually encoded within a Bolt 12 offer or something like that and which node it pertains to. Yeah, just a cool little tool. It looks like somebody's just vibe coded it, which is pretty cool. Obviously, be mindful, if you're pasting addresses in from your own node or something or invoices from your own node, there might be a privacy trade-off there. So just be careful, use a VPN, or I have no idea whether it's accessible on Tor. I doubt it, but it can be a cool little something for you to bookmark in case you might need it one day.
Nice.
Next on the list, Mr. Raw has been at it again. Sparrow version 2.3.0 has been released with send to silent payments, pay to DNS addresses, and min fee rate from server. I am going to have to click another link now to see what that last one is. Support creating transactions with the minimum relay fee rate set by the connected server or configured by the user. So basically, if you connect Sparrow to a node that allows you to do sub 1 sat per byte transactions, then you can now do that from within the Sparrow UI so that you don't need to overpay. Because as we know, sub 1 sats per byte summer is here, even though it's not summer anymore. He's created just a line in the UI with what's actually possible on the blockchain now, where people are doing essentially nearly free Bitcoin transactions.
Yeah.
Obviously, the highlight here is being able to send to silent payment addresses. That's very cool. I believe it's the first Bitcoin desktop wallet that has the support. Obviously, as we know, it's already in Cake and some smaller wallets, maybe Bulk Bitcoin. I think they might have it as well. So as we always say with these new tools and upgrades to Bitcoin, they're only as good as how well implemented or widely adopted they are. And I think it's safe to say that Sparrow is the gold standard and the most adopted modern desktop wallet there is today. Yeah. So the fact that we've got this here and it now opens silent payments or sending to silent payments to all Sparrow users is a very cool thing to me. So I'm very happy to see this. And also, he's added support for sending to those BIP353 human readable names. So again, this is a fairly recent development that's got very low adoption. What you can do if you own a domain, you can put like a text record with the domain registrar like Namecheap that basically with any BIP353 compatible wallet like Sparrow now, if you were to paste in max@ungovernablemisfits.com into a compatible wallet like Sparrow, it would ping that DNS server and it would generate an address, a silent payment address to be clear, I think. Pretty sure it is a silent payment address. Yeah, so rather than having to copy paste anything, if I know I'm going to pay you in Sparrow Max, I can just have you in my contact list and say, pay to max@ungovernablemisfits.com, and Sparrow will do all the resolution and just automatically populate the address as well.
Very nice.
Love to see it. Great work, Craig. There's loads of other stuff as well, loads of bug fixes, dependency upgrades and stuff like that, but those are the two highlights. Next on the list, I just wanted to highlight a new wallet that I stumbled across over on Nostr that I've never heard of before, and I'm guessing you may not have either, Max. It's called Layerz Wallet. Layerz with a Z.
No.
Or a Z, depending on which side of the pond you live on. It's a mobile wallet for beginners, essentially. It's still in alpha at the moment, so I'm reluctant to say that it's for beginners because you might get wrecked and lose all your funds. This is a hot wallet that's very new. It's in alpha, so please be very careful. The reason I'm highlighting it is, number one, it has a great and nice simple UI, but the main reason I'm highlighting it is that it has support for Arc, Spark, Lightning, on-chain, and then a couple of other weird shit that I've never heard of, like Botanics and Rootstock, which I know zero about. I believe they're, air quotes, layer 2s of some shape or form. Oh, and it also has Liquid as well. So it's kind of like an all things to all people wallet with a simple UI. So I'm keen to see how this one pans out. It was the Arc one that kind of spoke to me, really, piqued my interest and said, I might want to download this a try. So haven't actually done any transactions with it. I've set a wallet up and poked around a bit. It's just got a nice simple UI and it's Arc compatible. So when I find another Arc compatible wallet, I will test sending and receiving back and forth to see what the user experience is like. But just wanted to let Governables know about it. Next on the list, Samurai Dojo version 1.28. Notable changes here. They have upgraded Dojo to include Fulcrum Indexer version 2, which we spoke about 1 or 2 shows ago.
Oh, yeah.
They've upgraded to 2.0, so if you run the kind of vanilla Dojo, then you now have Fulcrum available to you. And then just loads of dependency updates, bump to the BTC RPC Explorer, and a couple of some minor fixes there as well.
Very nice.
Last on the list, Nunchuk version 1.73. Minor release, bug fixes, but I just wanted to highlight, because we mentioned this previously when we talked about Miniscript and that it was a bit fragmented.
Yeah, they're locking out the fund.
Yeah, was that there was some incompatibility between the various Miniscript wallets, like Liana descriptors didn't work in Nunchuk and vice versa. Well, this release adds Liana descriptor support into Nunchuk, which presumably means that you can recover your Miniscript wallet from Liana into Nunchuk, which again, increasing the compatibility and can only be a good thing.
Yeah, very good.
All right, so we sign off with the questions?
Yeah.
First one comes from Mr. Rod Palmer, and he asks, and I'll give you this one to answer first, Max. What is your favourite Plebslop? Are you familiar with the term Plebslop?
I'm familiar with the term. I don't know. I'm not tuned in enough to know. What's your favourite Plebslop?
The obvious one for me is all of the NOTs proponents running around screaming CSAM at the top of their voices. Like that's it for me.
Plebslop. Yeah, okay. Probably that.
I know Rod Palmer's a fan of that one as well.
That's his favourite. I sort of don't see that much because I'm not engaging on Twitter that much anymore. Like a little bit, but I don't get my daily dose of Plebslop. Maybe I need to up my Plebslop game.
Yep, you got to get your 40 hours of Plebslop a week. Next question comes from Vibrant on Nostr. He said, thoughts on Sparrow now having send to silent payments functionality, and maybe your guys' opinions on silent payments versus PayNyms. Well, we've just covered the Sparrow thing. Opinions on silent payments versus PayNyms. I'm actually going to read the next question as well because it's very similar, and then we can answer it together because the next question comes from Bitarius. How would you say that, Max?
Bitores?
Bitarius?
Bitores?
Yeah, Bitores. They said, do silent payments have a future and why not?
So loaded.
Yeah, I actually commented back to say, wait, did you mean do they have a future? And if not, why not? And he was like, no, I meant what I went.
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay, so yeah, well, let's answer both of those questions. We've covered the Sparrow bit. The comparison. Well, do they have a future? I think yes, probably, because there seems to be, rightly or wrongly, more of an acceptance of them as a concept compared to Bit 47. I think some of that is probably due to politics rather than a technical solution, although there are some pros and cons, or pros, I guess, of silent payments versus Bit 47 in its current guise as to how it's implemented, which, again, we'll get into in a second. I think it's a very strong signal that somebody like Sparrow has added sending support for it. How widely it gets adopted with the rest of the network is probably going to take a lot longer than anybody anticipates, as is always the case with any technical development. I think you'll agree, Max.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have a future? Yeah, I'm fairly positive on it. I guess maybe a quick recap for those that are like, what the fuck is silent payments? It's a privacy upgrade to Bitcoin that allows you to receive payments basically via a single reusable static address. It does so in a way that if you receive multiple transactions to the same static address, those transactions are not interlinked on the blockchain. So it allows you to receive from different people privately. I say privately in a manner that means that you don't have to interact with them. You can just have a QR code or an address in your Twitter bio, and
rather than reusing the same address, like a standard address, you can have it.
Yeah. Silent payments, they don't require any direct sender and receiver interaction. Like say, it's just sender scans a QR code or enters your silent payment address. The compatible wallet does all of the magic under the hood to generate a Taproot Bitcoin address, a traditional Taproot address, which the Bitcoin is then sent to. I guess at a high level, quick 1, 2, 3 step how it goes. The receiver will publish a static payment address, again, Twitter bio, website, whatever it is. It's a similar looking address. It's just got the prefix SP1, maybe a Q as well, but SP1. The sender uses the receiver's scan public key and one of their own inputs that they're going to send to compute a shared secret via basically cryptography magic, which is way above my head. And the sender then hashes that secret with the transaction data, which creates what we call a tweak, which is then added to the spend public key. This is getting way too technical, but basically it generates a unique Taproot output known only to the sender and the recipient, so that only those two are kind of aware of the transaction. And then on the receiver side, the receiver's wallet basically has to scan the blockchain using their, I think it's called a scan private key, which will then check all of the available outputs since the last scan to check whether any of them are kind of part of their own wallet. Mm-hmm. The pros, I guess, obviously no address reuse and there's no output linking, at least in the first instance. I say that because obviously it's still a Bitcoin output. So if you receive 100 transactions to your silent payment address or addresses derived from your silent payment address, what you do with those afterwards can be impactful to your privacy. Mm-hmm. And going back to the pros, obviously, super convenient, perfect for donations or static QR codes on websites. You don't need any interaction. Yeah, it just produces a typical Taproot output that looks like any other Taproot output in any other Bitcoin transaction. The main con really is the scanning overhead. So I think I briefly mentioned it before, but basically receivers have got to scan the blockchain in a slightly more resource intensive way to kind of compute. It's not just a case of, my wallet, talk to my node, here's my list of addresses, go and look for any transactions at those addresses. Yeah. It's more in depth than that because there's computation required from, I won't even dive into it because like I say, it's above my head, but there's more computation required to work out, okay, there's an output. Is that mine? Can I spend that? And then you have to do some computation to work that out. That's, I think, initially was the kind of impact of that was overblown because most people should be running their own node anyway. But for those that are not running their own node. Improvements are being made at the kind of indexer level to kind of optimize these types of things. So for somebody like Cake Wallet, they're actively working for solutions to kind of mitigate the impact of all of this scanning that takes place. So I'm quietly confident that will become less of an issue, but it remains, I guess, an unfixed problem or something to be aware of when you're interacting with silent payment, is that basically if you're a receiver with a silent payment, you just might have to open your wallet and just do a bit of a longer scan. I'm sure the Monero fans who listen to this will be no stranger to that. That's the main con, really, other than the fact that it's not as widely adopted yet. Well, I guess you could also argue that the only output or supported output type is Taproot, so you can't hide in that big crowd of native SegWit addresses, which form the largest part. And obviously, you can't do any multi-sig stuff with this either, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm quite bullish. I think it will continue to gain adoption. It seems to be well thought of by the influencer crowd, which, whether we like it or not, tend to do quite a little bit for adoption over the years. So, yeah, we'll see. I guess anything to chime in on there, Max?
Not really, other than it's one of these divisive topics. Again, like the Knots versus Core thing, I see often like silent payments versus Bit47 and like people on either side and this kind of stuff. And to me, I kind of look at this as like they're both good options. I use Bit47. I've used it for a long time. I like it. I've never used silent payments. I think I tried to do it once. I had a failure. This is like a long time ago, early days. And I haven't really done anything with it since. But on the face of it, I look at it and just go, well, they're both good in different ways. And anything that helps people not reuse addresses and has the potential to give more privacy is good. I don't know technically which one I would choose if I could wave a magic wand. I just think if one's used a bit and one's used a lot, and whichever way around it is, it's still better than not having them. That's my kind of view on it all.
Yeah, I can go a bit deeper on the comparison side of things, I guess, between Bit47 and silent payments. Bit47 requires
notification transaction.
Notification transaction. Now, in the current implementations like Ashigaru, or I believe Sparrow still has it, that is done on chain. So it's an extra fee, albeit it's almost negligible at the moment, the fee. It is an extra transaction that takes time and effort and a small cost to create the setup and generate the shared secrets, which are then stored in an op return on the blockchain. Whereas silent payments just don't need that. Like if I want to pay you once and once only, Max, I just send you one silent payment and that's it. So I guess you could argue that Bit47 is better suited to recurring relationships, maybe, or is more applicable to recurring relationships. I guess you could argue that so is silent payments. It's just that there's one less transaction to do.
Mm-hmm.
I will caveat that by saying it doesn't necessarily have to be an on-chain transaction, that notification. It could be somewhere off-chain. It's just that all of the active implementations have only ever used an on-chain transaction to establish that. You could argue that there is a pro to it as well as a con. Obviously, the cons are the cost and the time it takes to do it. But the pro is that, as we know, the Bitcoin blockchain is immutable, very difficult to change, so that it's always going to be there when you need to call upon it if you need to recover your wallet or something like that. Like it's there, your wallet with the private keys references all of these previous notification transactions, and that's how you recover all of your previous Bit47 transaction history and outputs from that. So could argue it's a feature, not a bug, depending on how you want to look at it. I guess keeping on the topic of the notification transaction, that can leak some metadata just because you've got to use one of your UTXOs to establish that connection. And then depending on which UTXOs you then use to make the actual payment, once the notification transaction has been established, that could also leak some metadata between sender and receiver, which you may or may not want to do. Again, I think sometimes when people talk about this, the impact is overblown, but again, it's something worth considering that you don't have to worry about with silent payments. Bit47, I guess, because of how it generates the addresses, it requires less blockchain scanning, which, as we've established, is one of the main downsides at the moment of silent payments, which requires that continuous blockchain scan every time you open it, because it has to look at all of the transactions that have or outputs that have been created since the last time it did a scan to check that there isn't any outputs out there that belongs to this wallet. So that would be a pro for the Bit47 camp at the moment as well. I think that's about it, really. They are very similar. The main differences for me, to summarize, would be Silent Payments doesn't have that setup transaction, but Silent Payments does require that more active scanning, which I believe is not that big of an issue.
But on the other side of it, some people might say that it is an issue, and then you might say that, well, how does that scale if it's used a lot? Or like, how much of a burden does that computation become? And is that something that the average person can run on their hardware and blah, blah, blah? I don't know, like way above my head, don't know. But like I say, the fact that both options are out there and people can use them is better than not having the options. So for me, that's a win. I'm happy that they're both out there.
Agreed. All right, next question comes from Zyka Boy on Noster. What happened to the usual 30% dips? Has the caliber of the current crop of Bitcoiners been watered down by tossers like Sailor, or is it a millennial disease? Can someone please get to the devs and stand in front of each other so we can bash their heads together like what we used to get in the old days in it?
I presume he sent this before, what was it, a couple of days ago? We had like a 10 or 15% drawdown in a day.
I think he sent it this morning, because I only asked this morning for questions. But
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why he's moaning about small dips. I mean, I welcome not having to, see my net worth go through multiple hurdles. I prefer this. I guess what he might be getting at is like, why are we not having these dips? Is it because institutions are, again, to use the cliche, buying the dips so that they're less harsh? Maybe. I have no idea.
I think we are having the dips. I don't think we've had a few recently. We had that, whatever it was, 15% the other day. We had 4 or 5 months ago, we suddenly went from like 120 down to like 75. I don't know what that is as a percentage, but it's quite a lot. That's got to be at least 30% more. So we are having them. I just think what I've seen since I've been involved is you have like, it jumps around for a while, then you have a sort of bull runny sort of thing, and then you have this big 80% or thereabouts, massive long bear market, and then a sort of sidewaysy recovery, and then it goes again. So maybe like, I don't know when that comes or whether it comes again, but that's what it's always been. So maybe you just have to wait for then. Like, it will come, I'm sure. In time, it will come.
I was going to say the same thing. Nice. All right, final question comes from friend of the show, Rev Hoddle on Noster. He said, it seems like 25,000 sats is the standard minimum for Lightning Submarine swap services. Are there different services essentially just using Boltz, and that's why the minimum is so consistent?
Yes.
Muun Wallet is the only wallet I've found that can do submarine swaps with essentially no minimum. Are there any other swap services that have no minimum? I'll let you tackle this one first.
Doesn't Muun use Boltz on the back end?
I don't believe they do use Boltz. I think they might do it themselves.
Okay. Well, I don't really know. I've had lots of problems with it, to be honest, with swaps. I would say Muun is really, really simple in the sense that it just works. One big frustration I have with Muun, say you send in an on-chain payment and you want it swapping to Lightning, unless you spend all of the sats, you risk linking UTXOs and causing yourself some privacy harm. And to then send all, there's not a send all function in the wallet. So you have to just guess constantly. You're like, I'll try sending this much. It's like, oh, and it's like, I'll try sending this much. And then it's like, that's below the minimum, unless I'm doing something wrong, which is possible. Let's be honest. Yeah, like that's below the minimum. You need to have this much balance for the, the payment of sending it. So I'm like, okay, I'll try a little bit less. I'll try a little bit more. And as a general rule, I have to like just guess my way through like 4 or 5 times before I can send a payment to send all. And I think quite often you end up sending or paying more in fees than you have to, because they're like, okay, that's kind of close enough. That's, within a few hundred sats. So we'll just take the rest. So that's the one thing with that. I'm like, it would be really nice. And I'm not slating the service because the service is pretty flawless outside of that. But yeah, like a send all would be quite nice, because on Boltz, I've had quite a few failures where I've been trying to swap and send to another Lightning node and things like that. And I've had quite a few issues. So I moved across to Muun. And I never used to have issues with Boltz. So I don't know what that is. I don't know what's going on with that. But just quite a few where I pay and then an hour goes past and it's like, oh, this failed. You're like, oh, great. it bounces back and you just like sent an on-chain transaction that now has to be sent to your recovery address. And so you've just paid some fees and like nothing's happened.
Interesting. I didn't even know Muun was still a thing. I'd never hear anybody mention it. So it's interesting to hear you talk about it, actually, and the fact that it's still going. I guess with the current fee situation, like Muun is thriving because for those that don't know, Muun is an on-chain wallet that masquerades as a Lightning wallet, and every single transaction is essentially a submarine swap between on-chain and Lightning that they facilitate for you in a very easy way, to be clear. Like that's how it gained so much popularity so quickly.
Yeah.
So in a low-fee environment, because everything's on-chain, even though you are able to pay Lightning invoices, it works. But as soon as fees get high, like swap services go through the roof because, again, it's still on-chain. So interesting. Yeah, didn't even know they were still going. That's cool. Refol, to answer your question about are most people using Boltz? Yes. I've had some great experience with Boltz. Like I've used them regularly for personal stuff and for work stuff, and it's been pretty faultless for me. In terms of the 25,000 sat fee, I'm guessing that because of the way Boltz works, like all of their swaps will have to lock up a certain level of capital for a certain amount of time. They'll have to manage liquidity and channels, and they also do liquid stuff. And I'm guessing that they just set that fee as like a minimum viable fee that they will attract as a percentage, because that's how they typically operate, to make each operation worth their while, is my guess. I did have a quick look on their docs to see if they gave anything more concrete than that, but I couldn't find anything, so I'm just guessing it's just a case of this is the minimum amount of, because if you do a 25,000 sat swap on Boltz, like they're going to earn next to fuck all on that.
Yeah.
Type it in and see. Like they're getting 125 sats for facilitating that. So, it's not a lot for them versus the computational cost and the capital lockup cost. And yeah, so I'm guessing that it's something to do with that. Although I do believe, let me just click around. If you see, there's Rootstock again. Send an asset on Rootstock. What the fuck is... All right, I'm going to put out a bounty here. 5,000 sats to the person that gives me the best explainer in the comments on Fountain or any podcasting app. What the fuck is Rootstock, and should I be interested in it? Anyway, if you swap from Liquid to Lightning, I'm not sure why you'd want to do that, but you can. The minimum amount is 41 sats.
I know why people do that. I've heard loads of people do it for a privacy hop. I think they go Bitcoin, Lightning, Liquid, Liquid out, some sort of thing like that. Or they do a thing where they get paid in Lightning, but it does a swap through Liquid. It's like an extra hop. I've heard loads of people do it. Like it's not just like a few. I've heard loads of people do it.
I suppose it's good that it's there as an alternative, because we've got wallets like Aqua now, which are Liquid native, but also speak Bitcoin and Lightning. So I don't know, if you find yourself in a position where you don't want to use the swap service in Aqua and you've got some funds on Liquid, then it's good that Boltz also offers that as well as an independent third party. Although, if I was a betting man, maybe Aqua's using Boltz in the back end anyway.
Probably.
You never know.
Probably. So
you can get around it if you are a Liquid enjoyer. To answer the 25,000 sat fee or minimum, I'm guessing it's just an operational cost minimum. They're happy to accept.
Yeah, makes sense.
Oh, are there any other swap services that have no minimum? I am not sure. I don't know whether there's anything Cake Wallet that would offer a smaller minimum. Are you familiar with that, Max?
I don't know. Do they use Trucador on the back end or something like that? I'm not sure with their Lightning stuff. I think their Lightning stuff is relatively unbuilt out on Cake.
Okay.
I'm sure Seth said on the last time that they're still like thinking about how to do things and make it slick, but I've not used their swap for anything Lightning. I can't think if you even can. I think you can pay a Lightning invoice with other cryptocurrencies and it will go through to Lightning. It does a swap on the back end with their new like pay anything. What do they call it? Pay all or something like that? We'll have to ask him on the next Freedom Tech Friday.
That sounds good to me. Yeah, I don't know whether Wallet of Satoshi would do something as well. I know they speak on-chain and off-chain, and they also have that air quote self-custody option as well, which I probably should have put on the list because they now have Spark support, don't they, which they're calling a self-custody option. That's also discussion for Freedom Tech Friday because I know Seth's been looking at this sort of stuff. So, stay tuned.
Yeah.
Other than that, mate, I think we are at the end of the list.
I think so. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the sats and everything else. We appreciate you. And we'll catch you on Friday.
All right. Thanks, guys.
And we're back.
We are back. Take two. Thankfully, we don't need to do the whole show again.
You said remind me of this. Like, as you said it, that's not going to fucking work. My memory is awful. I didn't have a pen and paper. I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. And that's how it turned out.
We had a last minute submission via my Noster note. It comes from Huxley on Noster, who asked the question just after we started recording. So hence me asking Max to remind me. But we both forgot. So here we are recording immediately after we just stopped recording the main show.
Just for you, Huxley.
Yeah, so you're welcome. Huxley asks, is it best practice to use Ashigaru terminal when sending corn to and from my AlbyHub to preserve privacy? Or is this redundant if I'm using non-KYC Bitcoin? Max, I know you're an AlbyHub enjoyer, so I'll let you tackle this one first.
Yeah, it's an extra step that can't hurt, I guess. And I guess you mean you're going from Lightning to on-chain and then you're sending it to Ashigaru terminal to mix before using it on-chain again. So personally, I tend to, if something's in Lightning, I tend to keep it in Lightning as a general rule and spend with those Lightning sats generally. But if I was going to go back on chain, then yeah, I would mix again. If it's non-KYC and you want to keep your private thing, I'd probably do that.
I think the question is simpler than the way you interpreted it. I think they're just asking, once they've bought Bitcoin, do they need to mix it with Ashigaru before they send it to AlbyHub to presumably send on the Lightning Network? I don't think they didn't mention anything about swapping back and forth. It's just a case of do they need to do a coin join before they top up their AlbyHub, essentially.
Right. Okay, sorry. I thought you were saying from Alby to Ashigaru. Yeah, I would always personally say you should consider doing that and then opening a channel with Postmix. That's what I've always done previously. That would be, I think, probably the safest thing to do. What about you, mate?
It isn't going to hurt. You're going to get additional privacy from the person or entity that you're buying this non-KYC Bitcoin from. That's the main advantage here. Is you already got a good start if you're buying no KYC Bitcoin because you're not on a list. But whoever you bought from can track those UTXOs. So using Ashigaru terminal to give the UTXOs that you bought from that person a fresh start before you go into Lightning will be additive. I guess it can't hurt if you're comfortable with the technical know-how and the requirements to do that with Ashigaru terminal. By all means, go for it, and obviously that you're comfortable with the fees as well, because if you're doing this regularly, then you've got to take that into account, particularly if you're buying smaller amounts. Yeah. Because using Whirlpool is not free. There are costs associated with that. The other thing I would maybe consider as well to remove some hurdles, although you might be adding additional ones depending on how you want to look at this, is why not buy via RoboSats? You're already in the Lightning Network there. That way, this is up for debate, but you could argue that you remove the need to have any on-chain footprint whatsoever, thus remove the need to use Whirlpool in the first place. Send me a DM and I'll send you some reference on this. I've done a little write-up on buying and staying within the Lightning Network to reduce your on-chain footprint in a bid to preserve your privacy when interacting with Bitcoin. Maybe, Jordan, quick reminder for you, if we can add that to the show notes, that would be awesome. Maybe worth exploring as well.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so in summary, if on-chain and you want to have the privacy, probably worth doing, but there is a cost associated, like privacy isn't free. Or you do it the other way, like you just said, straight into Lightning. So you're already in that ecosystem and you don't have the on-chain footprint. Good advice.
All right, let's wrap it up, mate. Huxley, you're welcome for the additional little mini show.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question. Thanks for everybody that got involved.
All right. Adios.
Bye.
Before you go, miningbox.io help keep your online presence hidden. They provide anonymous server hosting solutions, virtual, private, and dedicated servers, domain registration, and DNS parking. They don't require any of your personal information, and you can purchase using Bitcoin, Lightning, or Monero. No personal information required. None. Zero. miningbox.io. Stay ungovernable.